After being in a relationship for 2 years, it all came to an end on the night of an important investment dinner. A man who had been pursuing Clara for the better part of 7 years was preparing to move to another country. Before he left, he asked her to spend one last day with him, and they returned to their old high school to walk through memories of their youth. In doing so, she left me to handle the investment dinner I had meticulously arranged all by myself, forcing me to face the uncomfortable questions and the eventual failure of the deal. When she finally spoke to me about it, she had the audacity to act as though I was the one in the wrong. "Leo, do you only care about the me that's all business and no heart? He's leaving the country for good. Nothing was going to happen. Besides, I know you're on good terms with those investors. It's just one deal. If this one didn't work out, there will be another one. I built this company from the ground up with my own 2 hands. Do you honestly believe you can hold that over my head?" I felt a strange mix of anger and disbelief, a hollow laugh escaping me. In that moment, I decisively ended our relationship, slapping her across the face before walking away. I also made a call to withdraw every resource and all the support I had provided to her venture. Her company, which she believed she had built alone, went into bankruptcy almost overnight. It seemed she had forgotten that without my backing, her ambition had no foundation to stand on. After the dinner concluded, I walked out of the restaurant feeling a profound sense of exhaustion. Clara still hadn't appeared, and there wasn't a single message from her on my phone. However, a few of the investors I had a personal connection with had sent me their regrets. As I had predicted, every single one of them had declined to move forward. I switched off my phone's screen and leaned my head back against the car's leather seat, closing my eyes against a wave of frustration. This dinner was organized entirely through connections I had with the Grant Foundation, a lifeline meant to secure the investment Clara's company desperately needed. If she had simply made an appearance, the entire financial crisis her company was facing could have been resolved. I had been planning this event for what felt like an eternity. I had even reminded her that same morning how critical the dinner was, and that she absolutely could not afford to be late. I never imagined she would fail to show up at all. I let out a long sigh, my hand hovering over the ignition, when my phone rang. It was my assistant. She had managed to find out where Clara had been. A few concise sentences were all it took for me to understand the whole situation. It was about a man who had been trying to win her affection for 7 years. He was moving abroad, and before his flight, he wanted to spend one last day with her, revisiting the places where they had spent their high school years. A tight knot formed in my chest. I ended the call and opened a video my assistant had forwarded to me. It was a screen recording of the man's social media page. He had posted a collage of photos, the 2 of them watching a sunrise, sitting back to back under a large plane tree, laughing in a classroom, and finally, a group shot where they stood side by side in their old school uniforms. They were smiling radiantly, his head tilted just slightly toward her. I could see that the tips of Clara's ears were red. I rubbed my temples and sighed again. We had been together for 2 years. I knew that look. It was the way she looked when she was shy and flustered. To say I wasn't upset would be a complete fabrication. My chest felt constricted, but the overwhelming emotion was disappointment. We had been classmates in college. She was the kind of person who seemed to excel at everything effortlessly, always composed and intelligent. But I managed to defeat her in the final round of the Campus Go tournament. Not long after, she sent me a friend request online, saying she wanted to learn the game from me. We grew closer as we spent more time together, and eventually, she was the one who initiated our romantic relationship. I've always been drawn to capable people, admiring ambitious individuals who possess both intelligence and a sense of responsibility. Clara embodied all of those qualities. It felt natural when we officially became a couple around the time of our graduation. When Clara expressed her desire to start her own company, I chose to support her using the resources and connections available to me through the Grant Foundation. With my help, her business grew rapidly, quickly making a name for itself in L City. However, we had a major disagreement on one particular project. Ignoring my advice, she moved forward on her own and signed a contract while we were still at odds. The decision backfired, and the company took a massive hit, bringing it to the brink of bankruptcy. It was only then that Clara seemed to grasp the seriousness of the situation, pleading with me to help her save the company. I reasoned that she was still young and that everyone is entitled to make mistakes, so I agreed to help. But the investors I knew, who were affiliated with the Grant Foundation, valued my connection, not hers. Organizing that investment dinner had been a significant undertaking, requiring a great deal of effort on my part. I never would have thought she would abandon it all for another man. It was both absurd and laughable. Her choice not only destroyed the investment opportunity, but also shattered the foundation of our relationship. I had no choice but to end things with her. Besides, an opportunity that Clara had so carelessly discarded was one that others would eagerly cherish. At the dinner, I had spoken with Maya, a student from another department at our university. She was also seeking investment for her startup, but was struggling to get meetings without any established local connections in L City. I remembered that last year, Clara's company had a project that required a data set we couldn't process. I had reached out to Maya for help, and she worked for 2 days straight to complete the analysis for us. Although I had thanked her at the time, I still felt I owed her a favor. Since Clara had failed to seize this opportunity, I decided to give it to someone who was prepared and deserving. I immediately made a call and recommended Maya to my contacts at the Grant Foundation. Just after I finished showering that night, my phone rang. It was Clara. She had obviously found out that the investment had failed, and she questioned me with a furious tone. "Leo, aren't those investors close with your Grant Foundation? How could the deal have possibly fallen through? Did you say something wrong and offend them? How could you mess up something so simple? You need to go and apologize to them right now." Listening to her, I was so overcome with a sense of disbelief that I laughed. How could a person be so utterly shameless? She was the one who threw away the opportunity, yet she had the nerve to place the blame on someone else. I sent her the video my assistant had found and replied coldly, "Clara, I have never met someone as shameless as you. You skipped a multi-million-dollar investment dinner to take a trip down memory lane. And now you're trying to blame me for the consequences? Consider us broken up." I hung up the phone abruptly. She tried calling back repeatedly and sent a flood of text messages, so I blocked her number and deleted her contact information. Finally, there was silence. People rarely reveal their true nature overnight. Clara's actions were a clear indication of her character, and I knew the best course of action was to walk away without a second thought. Someone like her didn't deserve another chance. The next morning, I received a new friend request. The name was Ethan. The message read, "I think there's been a misunderstanding between us. My relationship with Clara isn't what you think it is." The profile picture was the same man from the social media post the night before. I declined the request without hesitation. Whatever their relationship was, it was no longer my concern. Now that my relationship with Clara was over, I had no desire to be entangled in their drama. I had been up late the previous night drafting a proposal for a major commercial development project in the Southern District, a project the Grant Foundation was also bidding on. My parents had told me that if I could win this bid, they would give me their blessing to pursue my own career path, instead of insisting I take over the family business. This was an opportunity I had to seize. As soon as I got downstairs, I saw Clara's car parked by the curb. She was leaning against the driver's side door, a cigarette between her fingers, and a somber expression on her face. The moment she saw me, she extinguished the cigarette and walked over. "Leo, don't be so difficult. There's nothing going on between me and Ethan. He's leaving the country, and I was just seeing him off as a friend. Don't let your imagination run wild. The lingering smell of smoke was overpowering, and I took a step back, reminding her coldly, "Clara, we are no longer together." I tried to walk past her, but she grabbed my wrist. "Leo, do you only love the version of me that's cold and heartless? He's leaving, so nothing can happen between us. I know you're close with the investors. It's just one deal. There will be others. Can't you look at the bigger picture? After all, I built this company from nothing. Do you really think you can use this to threaten me?" I forcefully pulled my arm away. Her words made my stomach turn, but I managed a disbelieving laugh. Clara genuinely seemed to believe she had become a major player in L City in just a year, all on her own merit. While she might be talented, L City was a competitive landscape. The truth was, without my help and resources, she would have been nothing. I scoffed. "You think I'm threatening you? Please." I didn't want to waste another moment arguing with her. Every minute spent in her presence felt like a waste of potential earnings. Just then, a man emerged from the passenger seat of her car and stood before me, his expression apologetic. "Leo, I'm Ethan. I tried to explain last night, but you didn't accept my request. I honestly didn't know Clara had such an important dinner. If I had known, I never would have asked her to come out. She's already told you she's sorry. Don't be so hard on her. This is all my fault." As he stepped closer, I caught the distinct scent of Clara's perfume on him, and a fresh wave of disgust washed over me. He was clearly here to provoke a reaction, so I saw no reason to be polite. "You know what you did was wrong, so at least you're self-aware. Clara is no saint, but you're not much better, asking a woman who you know is in a relationship to spend the day with you. It's pathetic. Since you seem to have a taste for my leftovers, you can have her." Ethan's face drained of color, his lips trembled, and his eyes reddened. Clara became enraged, pushing me back and positioning herself in front of him protectively. "Leo, do you have to be so cruel? Apologize to Ethan right now." I looked at her, a cold laugh escaping my lips, before I slapped her hard across the face. "Clara, think very carefully before you try to cross me again." The first thing I did when I got into my car was call my office and give the order to revoke all assistance and resources I had provided to Clara's company. I had once believed she was a decent and respectable person, and I had intended to end our relationship peacefully, without making things ugly. But Clara clearly didn't understand her place, so there was no longer any need for courtesy. With the backing of the Grant Foundation gone, I wanted to see how she would manage to survive in L City. After ending the call, I put the matter out of my mind and drove to the office. When I arrived, my team was already assembled in the conference room. We concluded the meeting, finalizing the plan for the Southern District project without any issues. I was about to head to my office for a short rest when my phone vibrated. It was Ethan, asking if we could meet. I was going to refuse, but he mentioned he had a secret concerning my company's project that he needed to share with me in person. His tone was so urgent that I decided I might as well see what he was planning. Inside the coffee shop, Ethan had changed into a dark suit and looked surprisingly mature and confident. With a practiced smile on his face, he began to speak. I stirred the coffee in front of me, not looking at him, and asked, "What is it you want to say?" With a slight smile, Ethan apologized. "I'm sorry, I knew if I didn't mention the project, you wouldn't have agreed to meet. As you can see, I'm about to leave the country, and there is nothing between me and Clara. I genuinely hope things work out for the two of you. Don't hold a grudge because of me. Besides, I've pursued her for 7 years. If she was ever going to say yes to me, she would have done so by now. Clara's feelings for you are genuine. You don't need to worry." Hearing this, I laughed out loud. "Ethan, what kind of performance are you putting on for me? With someone like Clara, recognizing her true character and walking away is the smartest choice. There's no need to test me. I've never been in the habit of picking up things someone else has thrown away." Ethan's intention was obvious. He was here to stake his claim. Unfortunately for him, he had misjudged me completely. At first, perhaps, I felt a flicker of pain, but once I saw the situation for what it was, I was mostly just relieved. Relieved that I hadn't wasted any more of my life on her. Ethan's hand tightened around his spoon, his composure finally cracking. Leo, do you think everyone is like you? If you can't handle your own woman, that's your problem. I've been pursuing Clara for 7 years. I know her better than I know myself. All you do is work and think about money. She felt suffocated with you. You don't even know what she truly wants. Me and Clara, we were meant to be. Unlike you, who was just an unnecessary third wheel. His words were so delusional, I almost laughed. Ethan was still incredibly naive. When Clara pursued me, she hid her past with him perfectly. This wasn't some grand romance. It was simply her unwillingness to let go of an old flame after she had achieved her professional goals. She wanted to have everything. There was nothing meant to be about it. I offered him a piece of advice. A leopard can't change its spots. If she betrayed me once, she can betray you a second time. What's taken by force is never meant to last. Ethan bit his lip, glanced toward the door, and then suddenly stood up, his expression a mixture of stubbornness and hurt. Leo, my family background might not be as impressive as yours, but you can't humiliate me like this. I honestly love Clara. You wouldn't understand what it's like to love someone for 7 years. He looked pained, his face pale as he staggered, and then collapsed to the floor. In the next instant, Clara rushed in from the doorway and cradled Ethan in her arms. She glared at me, her voice thick with accusation. Leo, how could you be so malicious? Ethan has a heart condition, and you still insisted on meeting him for coffee? It's fine if you don't like him. But did you want him dead? If anything happens to Ethan, I will not let you get away with this. I had thought he was putting on an act, but it turned out to be a much more elaborate performance. Seeing Clara's accusing stare, I smirked and pulled out my phone, playing the recording of the conversation where Ethan had invited me to the cafe. It was crystal clear. Clara hadn't expected that, and her face fell, leaving her speechless. I retorted, "He knew about his own condition, but still invited me for coffee. Who knows what his real intentions were? Clara, you can barely keep your own head above water, and you're in a position to threaten me. You should be more concerned about your own situation." As if on cue, Clara's phone rang. A frantic voice came through the speaker. "Our company's cash flow has completely collapsed. If this continues, we might not survive for more than a few days." Clara seemed to ignore the impending bankruptcy, too preoccupied with rushing the now unconscious Ethan to the hospital. Before she left, she looked back at me and said, "Leo, your background doesn't give you the right to be so arrogant. That's why I like Ethan so much. No matter what happens, he remains poised and confident, unlike you. Your sense of entitlement will be your downfall one day." With that, she struggled to help Ethan up and turned to leave. Hearing her words, I just chuckled coldly. Clara, oh Clara, you still have no idea what you're worth, even at a time like this. I didn't spare her another glance and headed back to my office. Later that day, an acquaintance from our social circle sent me a screenshot, asking with surprise if Clara and I had broken up. The screenshot was of Clara's most recent social media post. She had used a popular format for showing affection online. In the photo, she was sitting by a hospital bed, holding a bowl of congee and pretending to feed the person lying in it. Her expression was soft and gentle. In the bottom right corner of the frame, half of a man's face was visible, and it was clearly not mine. Her caption read, "You're so fragile, I guess I can let you win this time," followed by a cheeky emoji to keep the tone playful. The post had been published shortly after we had all left the coffee shop at noon. I confirmed that we had broken up. My friend simply remarked on how Clara had no idea how good she had it and was really pushing her luck. I just shook my head without saying much, closed the chat, and went to take a shower. Whatever Clara wanted to do now was her own business. I had no desire to be involved with her in any capacity. My only hope was that she would face the consequences for betraying what we had. But then, she called me from a new number. As soon as I answered, I could hear her struggling to contain her anger. "Leo, what is going on with the company? No matter how upset you are, you can't treat the company like a joke. We built it together with our own hard work. Are you really going to destroy it over a trivial disagreement?" Hearing Clara force herself to remain calm brought a smile to my face. Even at this stage, she still believed I was competing with Ethan out of jealousy. She had a vastly inflated sense of her own importance. I responded bluntly, "Clara, I think you need to understand something very clearly. We are broken up. If you continue to bother me, I will call the police." Upon hearing this, Clara could no longer restrain herself and had a complete breakdown, shouting into the phone, "Leo, you're nothing but a spoiled rich kid. Why is your perspective so narrow? Do you think the entire world revolves around you? I can make the company successful without you." I hung up before she could finish her tirade and set my phone to block all unknown numbers. Let her vent her frustrations to a deadline. I dismissed the entire incident from my mind. With the major project presentation only 2 days away, I couldn't afford to waste any more time on irrelevant people or problems. I saw Ethan again 2 days later after I had finished work for the day. He was waiting for me in the lobby of my office building, holding an ornate invitation card. "Leo, it's my birthday soon. Clara is throwing a party for me at the Rose Villa. You have to come." Ethan wore a smug and proud expression as he smiled faintly. I glanced at the invitation and couldn't help but laugh. Rose Villa? Is Clara sure about that? If my memory served me correctly, that villa was a gift I had purchased to celebrate our company landing its first major contract. After Ethan left, I did a little research. It turned out that Clara had been selling off the expensive gifts I had given her over the years to keep her failing company afloat. This birthday party for Ethan was not just a celebration. It was also an attempt to win over rivals of the Grant Foundation in a desperate bid to revive her company, while simultaneously trying to spite me. I looked at the invitation and smirked. Clara said she could succeed without me, so I would let her try. I instructed my assistant to compile a detailed list of all the expensive gifts I had ever given Clara during our relationship, complete with their original invoices. If we had simply grown apart and separated amicably, I would have accepted it, and the gifts would have remained hers. But she had cheated on me with such arrogance, and then used my money to entertain her new partner, who then had the gall to taunt me. In what world was that acceptable? I was not going to let Clara get away with a single penny. Even if it was just a sock, I wanted it back. Ethan's birthday party was a lively and well-organized affair. It was clear a lot of effort had gone into it. When I arrived, Ethan, dressed in an elegant and expensive suit, was taking photos with a group of friends. Nearby, one of them was complimenting him. "Ethan, you always had a good eye, investing in Clara so early on. 7 years and it finally paid off. It was always meant to be." Ethan just smiled modestly in response, though his eyes were brimming with satisfaction and pride. However, when his friends spotted me, their expressions soured. One of them said, "What are you doing here? Can't the Grant Foundation's golden boy accept defeat? Love is a game of skill. You're yesterday's news, so why are you still trying to cling on?" Ethan, however, stopped his friend and maintained his composed smile. "Leo, please, come on in." In our social circle, even if we weren't close friends, we were all acquaintances. The room grew quiet as all eyes turned to me. I shot a quick glance at Ethan, ignored him and the group in front of him, and simply signaled for the crew I had brought with me to start moving things out. Ethan frowned, his expression turning stubborn as he questioned me. "What do you think you're doing? Even if you're upset, you were the one who wanted to end things. Why are you crashing my birthday party?" The guests began to whisper amongst themselves. I let out a cold laugh and waved the list in my hand. Didn't Clara tell you that this villa legally belongs to me? And fair is fair. Clara owes me a significant amount of money and is unable to pay, so I'm simply repossessing my assets. Ethan froze when he saw the detailed inventory, his polite smile vanishing completely. The moving crew I brought was efficient, and soon enough, almost everything of value had been packed up. Before anyone could fully process what was happening, Ethan was clearly frustrated, glaring at me but not daring to say a word. He probably wanted to stop us, but I had 2 large, imposing bodyguards with me, and he had to think twice before attempting anything foolish. Suddenly, a stern voice cut through the commotion. "What do you all think you are doing?" Clara strode in from the entrance, positioning herself right next to Ethan, ready to support him. Seeing the scene unfolding, her face darkened with anger. I slowly took off my sunglasses, a smug grin on my face, and waved the list at her again, taunting. "Can't you see? I'm just taking back what is rightfully mine." Clara's eyes were fixed on the inventory list in my hand. She frowned deeply, her lips pressing into a thin, hard line before she finally spoke. "Leo, we were a couple. Do we really have to make things this ugly? I had no idea someone from the Grant Foundation could be so petty as to take back gifts." Clara acted as if the villa was hers by right. I couldn't help but laugh at her sense of entitlement. "So what? It's my property and I'll give it to whomever I please. I'd rather give it to a stray dog on the street than let you stay in it, Clara." Just as I finished speaking, Ethan jumped in to defend her. "Leo, how dare you speak to Clara like that? Without Clara, your company wouldn't have been nearly as successful. Don't think so highly of yourself." Ignoring him, I looked around at the remaining guests and announced, "Not to brag, but I have successfully secured the development project in the south of the city. I'll be counting on all of your support in the future. But let me be clear today. In L City, if you choose to work with Clara, you are choosing to be an enemy of mine and of the Grant Foundation." Compared to the Foundation, Clara's venture was not even a minor competitor. Furthermore, the value of the Southern City project was immense. Everyone present would carefully weigh their options. A murmur went through the crowd, and some people even began to quietly leave. Clara's face turned into an ugly mask of fury as she glared at me. Just then, one of the movers asked me what to do with a 2-meter-high glass sculpture in the center of the hall. It had been sculpted in Clara's likeness. I looked at Clara with a teasing smile and said, "Smash it! I have no use for these things anymore. I'd rather destroy it than let Clara have it." After everything had been moved out, I threw the inventory list at Clara's feet. "I'll send someone by later to formally take possession of the villa. As for the rest of it, figure it out. Pay me back what you owe me quickly, or we'll settle this in court. Trust me, I can make sure you never work in L City again." Ethan stood there in shock, his face pale, still in disbelief as I walked out. I patted his shoulder as I passed and said, "Ethan, I know you truly love her. After all, you chased her for 7 years. Your on-again, off-again relationship must mean something special. I'm sure you can help Clara get back on her feet. Good luck." With those parting words, I left the villa without a backward glance. I had already discovered that Ethan hadn't just pursued Clara for 7 years. He had cast a wide net, hoping one of his prospects would pay off. Back then, he was banking on Clara's intelligence leading to future success. He apparently had 7 or 8 other women he was similarly courting, but now only Clara had become successful and was willing to give him the time of day. Today, Clara wasn't my primary target. The main objective was to make the Grant Foundation's position clear so that no one would mistakenly offer Clara any assistance. I'm not a saint, and I have no intention of repaying betrayal with kindness. I was here to ruin Clara, to ensure she could never recover. In the end, Clara did manage to pay back all the money she owed me. Otherwise, facing legal action would have given her even less of a chance to make a comeback. Her barely functioning company officially declared bankruptcy. Just like that, Clara went from having everything to being completely broke overnight. She was even saddled with a mountain of debt that for her was an insurmountable fortune. As for Ethan, he had no intention of sticking around for the difficult times. He took what little money Clara had left and disappeared. In one fell swoop, Clara lost everything, the man and the money. My assistant stood by my desk, looking somewhat pleased with herself. "Leo, you wouldn't believe it. Clara sold everything she possibly could. Now she's being hounded by creditors and has to hide wherever she can. She can't even afford a room in the most run-down part of town anymore. Last night she actually slept under a bridge." I was reviewing a report in my hands and couldn't help but scoff. Clara had impressive credentials. If she were to look for a regular job, she might have a chance to rebuild her life. But I knew Clara. She had always been proud, accustomed to being treated like royalty, with everyone fawning over her. There was no way she would ever be able to accept working for someone else. She would try to find a way to start her own company again. Maya, with my introduction, had successfully secured the investment she needed, and her company was growing at a steady pace. She came by my office that day specifically to treat me to dinner after work, and she also wanted to discuss the possibility of subcontracting a part of the Southern City project. Maya's company was more than capable, and she handled her business with a high degree of responsibility, so of course I was open to the idea. But I never would have expected to run into Clara downstairs in the lobby of my building. She looked nothing like her former self. Her once impeccable, tailored suits were gone, replaced by wrinkled casual clothes. You could tell she had made an effort to tidy herself up, but the redness in her eyes and the dark circles beneath them betrayed her exhaustion. Her once confident posture was now slumped. When Clara saw me, she quickly straightened her back and nervously called my name. "Leo!" But when her gaze fell on Maya, who was laughing and chatting beside me, she froze for a moment, and a flicker of deep loneliness crossed her eyes. "What is she doing with you?" she asked. I crossed my arms, looked her up and down, and asked simply, "What do you want?" Clara pursed her lips, her eyes fixed on my shoes, unable to meet my gaze. "Leo, I was wrong before. Can you give me another chance?" Her tone was sincere, but I knew her too well. We had been together for 2 years. She wasn't genuinely sorry, she was just scared. With no other options left, she was forced to swallow her pride, though it was clear she was far from willing. All this really meant was that Clara saw coming back to me as the quickest and cheapest path to recovery. But she truly didn't know me at all. I chuckled and looked at her, my posture relaxed. "Clara, you really don't understand me, do you? That chapter of my life is closed. There's no going back." Clara's face froze, and she looked terribly embarrassed. Her gaze shifted to the person beside me. Following her eyes, I saw Maya casually smirking, as if she were watching an entertaining show. Clara couldn't hold back her anger any longer and snapped, "Maya, do you really think you'll get anywhere with him? The moment he turns his back on you, you'll have nothing, and you'll never be able to get back on your feet. My today is your tomorrow." Maya simply raised an eyebrow. "I'm not foolish enough to give up my career and my own money for a man, unlike some people. And thanks to your little trip down memory lane, I was the one who landed the investment. So, thank you, Clara." Maya had a talent for sarcasm that almost made me laugh. Clara's face turned a dark shade of red, and she completely lost her composure, trying to lunge at Maya. I immediately called for security and had Clara thrown out of the building. I also instructed them to call the police if she caused any more trouble. Clara left with her tail between her legs. I didn't even bother to watch her go. She had gotten what she deserved. The next time I saw Clara was at another investment party. She was wearing a cheap suit, her hair slicked back with an excessive amount of gel, and her face was caked with white foundation. She was standing next to a rather wealthy-looking older woman, her eyeshadow so flashy it was impossible to miss. People I knew in our circle had told me that after I had cut her off, she had hit dead ends everywhere she turned. Eventually, she found some people to partner with for a new business venture. After so many failures, she had become desperate and was tricked into borrowing money from a loan shark to start the business. Completely disillusioned, Clara ended up selling herself to pay off the debt while searching for another opportunity to rise again. I swirled the champagne in my glass and laughed quietly to myself. Clara used to despise people who would do anything to climb the social ladder, and now she had become the very thing she hated. Suddenly, there was a commotion near the center of the room. I took a sip of my champagne and wandered over to see what was happening. It turned out that Clara had spotted Ethan standing next to a different rich lady. Ethan must have thought that Clara had hit rock bottom and couldn't possibly make it to such an exclusive party, which was why he had been so careless. But to his surprise, Clara was there. The two rivals met, and Clara immediately confronted Ethan. He had no interest in dealing with her and tried to escape, but Clara was not so easily dismissed. She began shouting, questioning why she had to sell herself while he continued to live a life of comfort. They started arguing heatedly. The rich lady with Ethan, enraged by the scene, slapped him hard across the face, which apparently triggered his heart condition, and he ended up being taken to the hospital. Clara didn't fare much better. She had upset both the rich woman and the party's host, and she was beaten by security and thrown out. Watching the end of this drama, I put down my drink and left the party. Clara had once missed an investment dinner for Ethan, and now she had been thrown out of one because of him. History has a strange way of repeating itself, doesn't it? The end game was the same. My business was thriving. One day, while I was busy at my desk, someone from my social circle sent me a text message. Clara was paralyzed. She owed an enormous amount of money and had been beaten so severely by debt collectors that she was now bedridden. She would likely spend the rest of her life in bed. While we were chatting, my friend also mentioned Ethan. After the incident at that party, the rich lady had dumped him, and the resulting scandal had unearthed his inglorious past, completely ruining his reputation. His heart condition had worsened, and now even walking a few steps was a struggle for him. My friend jokingly said, "Leo, you must have some kind of divine protection. All your exes are getting what they deserve. I guess I'd better watch what I say around you. Who is this guru you know? Introduce me sometime." I chuckled and turned off my phone, looking at the mountain of paperwork on my desk. I went back to work. What you hold in your own hands is what truly matters. Love and all that, it's unreliable. Women might betray me, but my money never will.